Hello there, I'm Jack Murphy filling in for Greg Everett again on this edition of All American People. Well, one of the things that I remember from my days in rock radio was a song called Running with the Band. Well, today on All American People, we meet the guy who ran the band. That and more straight ahead. Well, hello there. Welcome to the banks of the Waccamaw River, a place that I have spent many an hour, and I'm sure Leslie McIver has as well. Welcome to All American People.
My pleasure being here with you, Jack.
Good to have you with us.
It's been a long time since we've talked.
And we used to spend so much time here on the other show that I'm still doing, River Talk. We don't get to see the river too much on that show anymore.
My pleasure being here with you.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Where are you from originally, Leslie?
Sherrill, South Carolina.
Okay.
Home of Dizzy Gillespie, in case some of the people...
Well, then there you go. I mean, with you being the band man, you got to know that. That's a great story, isn't it?
Yes, he was a cousin of mine.
Now we are getting, so I never knew that.
Yes.
Dizzy Gillespie was a cousin? I mean, did you guys go to the same family reunions, or is it?
Well, he's a little older than I am,
okay.
but he would always remind me about Aunt Genia and several people that we were connected with whenever I'd get to see him.
Wow, that's great. That's a story right there that
Yes,
we'll have to dig a little deeper into. Did you know this growing up?
No, my mother was his contemporary, and she would throw shoes at him and stop all that noise down there, and when he was trying to find middle C and that kind of thing.
What's up with that? Stop all that noise.
I had no idea of where it would go.
Well, we never do.
Right.
We never know where it goes. We all have our dreams, but boy, what a great story.
It is.
Well, your story's been a good one as well.
Well, I don't know, Jack. We'll just have to
You're
talk
still
about
working
it.
on it?
I really am.
But still a great story.
Can't slow down. I just, I've accumulated some information and knowledge, and I want to share it as long as I'm able to breathe.
One of the neat things I remember growing up as a boy was that my father, bless his heart, and I've managed to do this with my son. He would, the first time he let me hang out with the old guys, took me to breakfast, there was so much, I was around so many older folks that I had a completely different perspective. I kind of knew what music they listened to. I kind of knew their approach to things. And there's wisdom in hanging out with your elders.
Best form of learning.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
Was always around folks that had been there and done that.
Right.
And I remember stories that these guys would tell about electric fences, so I didn't have to learn about electric fences as boys who grow up on the farm do.
I was old boy, but the young whippersnappers didn't have too much to tell me.
Nothing. I was already there. Well, tonight, because we're here, and it was all to tie in with the Conway High School Educational Foundation, you received an award from
Yes, I have been awarded here for, I questioned the real reason, but they gave it to me, and my daughter is sort of putting this together tonight, and just want to support her and really support Conway. I love Conway. I love Conway High School. Spent many years there too.
Sure. Well, let's go back in time a little bit. Your first taste of music, was it your cousin's influence on you, or?
Well, basically it was. I couldn't understand how you would make so much music out of three little old vowels, and that,
Sure.
And that led me into exploration. My brother wanted me to become a doctor with him, but that music was too tight on me. Mother was able to buy an old piano, and I started plunking around and getting tunes together, and lo and behold, here I am. I came to Conway as a fully trained band director, and spent about 40 years in the school system, Horry County school system. About 22 of those at Conway High School, but then there were other places I went in the county, other high schools and whatnot. One time I had 4 bands in the parade at one time from different schools.
How did you pull that off?
I just sat in the corner and just, with that training, told them to go at it.
I remember that our junior high instructor where I grew up was also the high school band teacher.
Right.
We had 4 junior highs that fed into the high school system. I said, buddy, how do you do that?
Yes.
It was interesting.
Well, I had 2 high schools and about 2 junior highs. That's where the 4 came from.
Unbelievable. Yeah. 4 in one parade.
It was fun. It was really fun. And the teachers who say that they don't enjoy teaching, I don't know what's wrong with them. I need to examine them really close because I had fun really growing up with my students.
And they're kids at some point, obviously, in that time frame. I don't know if we got into the grandkids side of things. Have you?
We have. And many of the quotes and things that we used to talk about in the band room, they have passed them on to their grands, and went out to the school today and was just greeted by a bunch of them. You remember you taught me here, there, and yon. So it's a good feeling.
Sure.
That's where the richness comes from.
A rewarding feeling.
Yes.
You still have that love for music and teaching?
Guess what, Jack?
What, Leslie?
The county has asked me to start a program, a music program, in the form of music as recreation.
Okay.
Now, we've started with the recorders and the beginning band instruments.
Is that how things start now?
Yes.
The same?
I advocate that. And the ones who are really interested will learn and kind of master that recorder before you buy that $600 saxophone or,
sure,
$500 trumpet. So that way we may create a county band, for performance purposes, like Christmas parades, Veterans Day, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Independence Day, I know it's an off.
All of them.
Oh yeah, all those great holidays.
As long as they're willing to go. And if you give the band kids a hot dog and give them transportation, they'll perform.
They'll show up somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
A good way of keeping them out of trouble. That's what we need to do with our youngsters today. Give them something meaningful to do, a purpose. And we'll stop some of the philandering around and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Mischief was around when I was a kid, and I'm sure it was around when you were there as well. And I read a book where there was mischief way back in the Garden of Eden going on.
Yeah, there's a great big book that we all need to read. I advocate
it's in there,
that
some great stories, and it's interesting that I look at that book as a great lesson in just how to deal with life. Take the spiritual aspect out of which you shouldn't do, but there's great lessons because the true champions that are in that book are folks who, they just weren't the cookie cutter folks that you would expect.
Greatest example.
A book of second chances.
That leads me into the other thing that we've talked about before in our shows, the City of Character program that we started here.
Right.
And it's still needed and as prevalent as before. Of course, we've had to downsize because there's no money and there's no contribution. We are a 501(c), and donations are down, so we cannot do very much without some money. But we need that program in effect just as hard as it has been in the past, and look what's happening in our community.
Sure.
The program started because of Columbine, but we've had Columbines right here in our county.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Jack,
to a
I know
lesser
you're
degree,
very
yeah.
aware of that, and folks, we just need help to keep that program going. And I put up a number if anybody wants to call about it, because we're sort of dormant now, but I want to get back active.
Well, it's a great program because you had that commonality that you were touching so many folks with that one theme that just kept recurring, something new every month.
Right.
That built into it.
The county has adopted it, and they are really being vigilant about it. Every month they have a saying, and I appreciate the county for at least carrying it on as part of their human relations type concept. But we need it for the whole city, for the whole county, and every borough here.
I know some area churches have seized upon that with some of their kids programs, that they do have that common thread. I think this month at some churches they're doing humility, but
Yes.
That's the one that we're doing in our church. But some kids, they're not doing church.
Right.
They don't have that mom and it's interesting because I know we're kind of straying a little bit, but I'm shocked at the number of kids who are bringing their parents to school because of character-based things that kids learned. There is a difference being made with the City of Character and everything that goes into play.
Now, Jack, I'm a trained United Methodist minister, but
You got right into that.
I don't want to preach here on this
That's
program,
fine.
but if you want me to preach,
We can
just
preach
let
a
me
little
know.
bit, yeah.
But that same thing, that humility, Bible refers to it as a contrite heart. And now we have got to get that back with our youngsters, and that's why even as I think now about working with some of my preschool programs, and in the future even thinking about a program whereas we can really talk about the book of values, the Bible and everything else with our teenagers. Just had one the other day, just beat another one to death. I mean, what are these all about? I don't understand them. not from my generation, and they shouldn't be understood with this generation. But we have no sense of value, no respect for human life, for each other. There's no love. We've got to, if we're going to turn this country around, even from Washington, D.C., with all that shenanigans they're doing up there, we have got to create this love stuff. And I'm jumping all over the place, but you know, these things are dear to my heart.
Well, where did you find time to put it all together? Because you had your own family.
I thank God for good health, number one, and the energy right now is not in any way subsiding. I will leave you now and go to teach one of my classes in the Burgess community. But we've just got to learn to use what talent, and I don't think I was given talent and knowledge and things just for my own edification. I've got to share it. And you know, it won't be too long before I'll be too old to do it, but while I'm here and have energy and health and strength, I'm going to tell the world.
So you still get that thrill, you still get that kick.
Yes.
Do you learn from the students? I mean, you know, because ultimately the teacher is always learning as well.
From the very beginning. From the very beginning of my teaching career. And now, with the youngsters that I have now, I got tangled up with my cell phone and I handed it to one of my 12-year-olds and he straightened it out for me and he showed me how I could input names and everything. So,
okay, you're good then.
You know, how old must I get before I stop learning?
My 6-year-old son is showing me things on. He deals with the Mac more. I'm a PC guy. Mama and he and Tristan are the Macs in the house, and so he's showing me some things. Technology's changed things though, hasn't it?
So much.
It's phenomenal.
I had some trouble with my computer, and it's about 3 years old. And he said, "Don't you know that this thing was out of date 6 months after you got it?" And yet I want him to kind of boost it up and give me a little more time on it because
it was
they
out
are
of date.
expensive.
Yeah, it's out of date. You're just checking email, probably like me. You know. Well, let's talk about you know, the medical profession, because what you do has led into that as well. You're chaplain over at Conway Medical Center.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, how about that?
That ministerial training, and I have to find out where I fit in according to God's call. I'm going to speak those words on television as loudly as I can. God's call, and it has me with the compassionate type care. I've even been with a hospice, and to be in the room with people who are trying to decide now, am I going to go to heaven or am I not going to go to heaven, or where do I stand in this religious spectrum? And some people wait to that moment to really get serious about it. But we just don't know from one day to the other. As I had a 31-year-old in my arms that passed away. And, you know, you just don't know the time or the place or the hour. So we have really got to just make up our mind whether we're going to be a Christian or not, or whether we're going to serve the Lord or not. Now, all these people, naysayers out there, I want to talk to them personally. I want them to show me something better than what I have. And then we'll have a nice talk, but don't criticize, and don't one person stopping all this teaching the Bible in school and that kind of thing. And our country was founded on it. It doesn't make sense to me.
It is kind of interesting, and I'll leave it at that. How something like that happened.
We don't need to get into that here. We don't have enough time to do it.
But you know, the thing that I always respond to, and I remember, and it's a whole different time, and we've made choices where my son goes to school. But the argument that I always kind of throw back at people is like going, yeah. It's like, you know, who are we? We can't keep God out of school.
It's impossible.
You can't. I mean, it's just some silly man law. He's there.
Impossible.
Whether you want him in there or not, he's there.
Will you explain this beautiful river?
I can't.
Will you explain those trees that turn? And
it just didn't happen.
And the flowers grow?
Yeah.
Who did that? Who causes that?
And making that chilly breeze ruffle up the little hairs on my neck right now. Or perhaps it's just our conversation. I don't know.
Wonder what would happen if we had the control switches to control us. The golfers would be after us.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, with this rainy day, they would be having a fit. But we don't have that control.
Not at all.
Same things with our lives, if you really think about it. We don't know when and where, but just be ready.
When I got up this morning, I didn't know I'd be sitting on this porch talking to you. I can promise you that.
Well, I had just talked to a prominent lawyer in town to find out just the day before ago. He's gone now. So our conversation is no more.
Yeah.
But yet we did not know that was our last conversation.